Welcome to the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. I don't know which version of the song you enjoyed more, the real one or Eric's, but hey, we are cruising. Welcome to Week 8. Brad's going to be out of town and out of pocket for the next few weeks, but we are still here and good to go. Eric, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, buddy. It's Friday. Got a beer, and it's time to do the show.
Can't beat that. Got some Halloween trick-or-treating going on this weekend. I noticed you were a Ghostbuster. Is that correct?
Yes, I was Egon Spangler. Mm-hmm. My son, my oldest, was Venkman. No, wait. He switched from Venkman. Who did he go as? Ray Stantz, I think.
Okay.
Yep, Dan Aykroyd's character. And then my youngest was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Of course.
And my wife went as one of the Ghostbusters from the new version, which I don't remember their names because I've only seen it once.
And you were okay with this?
She can do whatever she wants. She's a grown woman.
Yeah, well, that is true.
I mean, I would have preferred if she was an old school Ghostbuster, but do your thing. I'm not going to hold you back.
Things really started going downhill when we let them vote. I'm just, and I got the death stare from my wife. So, all right. Now that I got that out of the way.
About right.
Yeah. Looking forward to some trick-or-treating. It's going to be fun. So, yeah, Brad is out of town. He's busy saving the world.
He sure is, Bob.
He might be out of pocket for the next few weeks, so it'll just be me and Easy-E. That's okay. Between me, you, and your cat in the background, we'll be just fine. No need for Brad. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, she's on the chair. Yep.
I just see her back there. I don't know what she's doing. Yeah. Anyway, all right, yeah, so this is good. There was a great Thursday night game last night. I guess it wasn't great, but it was entertaining.
Most of the Packers receiving core was on the COVID exempt list, so that's never a great thing because Devontae Adams is really the only receiver that Aaron Rodgers trusts and loves. And Robert Tonyan tore his ACL, which not great. So, but yeah, other than that, it was a back and forth. I was surprised at how well the Packers defense and special teams played because I didn't think they were going to be able to hang without those guys. So, especially without Adams.
It was more or less Rondale Moore trying to give the game away with his muff punt and then tipped interception. And then at the very end of the game, obviously there was some miscommunication between Kyler Murray and
AJ Green. Yeah.
It just seemed like they more or less lost the game than Green Bay won it. But made for good TV. I was hoping for a better game. Do you remember the Kansas City Rams game from a couple years ago when they were scored, just couldn't stop scoring points?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was probably the best game I've seen in such a long time. So I'd like to see something like that again. But anyway.
That'd be great.
All right. We got some player news. Gronk is actually getting a little healthier. And
back at practice, right?
Yeah, he's actually questionable. And it looks like he might actually make his return this week. So that's good news considering they're going to be without Antonio Brown. It's going to be a difficult week for Tom Brady, but I'm sure he'll make it out just fine because he's Tommy Brady. Antonio Brown got a heel injury, and they said it could be a long-term thing. They don't need Antonio Brown now. They need him for the playoffs anyway, so not that big of a deal. Any thoughts on Gronk coming back? Do you want to just throw him in your lineup immediately, or?
No, I think it's a wait and see because he was dinged up last year, right? And they kind of held him out. They I think we talked about it. You really only take the Ferrari out on Sundays, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Just keep him waiting in the wings for the playoffs. I think if Antonio Brown's healthy and they're cruising, they'll sit him as well and just make sure all these guys are as healthy as they can possibly get them coming into the playoffs. I'm sure they want that one seed. They want that home field advantage throughout and whatnot. But I think if they can lock up the division and have some home field, maybe not throughout the entire thing, they'll be okay with that. And just try to keep those guys healthy. Gronk will probably be on a pitch count if he comes back.
Yeah, I agree.
So I wouldn't trust him to be out there the whole time, and you can't trust Brait or Jordan Howard either. So I wouldn't play any Tampa Bay tight ends until you see a significant workload again from Gronk.
I agree. It does kind of muddy things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Next piece of news is Antonio Gibson. He's not on the injury report despite having a broken leg, a fracture in his shin. But yeah, he's going to be okay. I think he'll still be RB2, but not anything to write home about. Alex Collins is listed as questionable with a groin. He'll probably end up playing, but just have a backup ready just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Darrington Evans, he's the backup running back for the Tennessee Titans. He was actually placed on IR. He's done now because that's the second time he's been placed on IR for the year. He was supposed to be the number 2 guy right behind Derrick Henry, and it just hasn't materialized just yet. This was a piece that was concerning for me is that Austin Eckler had a couple of DNPs, which is did not practice this week due to a hip injury.
Yes, very concerning.
And it happened midweek.
Uh-huh.
This wasn't something that happened from last week, so that's never good.
No, not at all.
I'm worried, and I think you definitely have to have a backup plan for that.
Sure. No, you absolutely should. He's a smaller guy. He's been dinged up in the past. Obviously, he missed significant time. Last year, 6 games. He missed 6 out of 6 games last year. He did play 16 the year before that, 14 the year before that, and 16 the year before that. But again, smaller. Things happen. Hip injuries. Look at what happened to Kenny Golladay. Mm-hmm. So hopefully it's probably not as significant as that, or hopefully we already would have heard about it. But if it is something that's going to linger like that, man, that's a tough road to go down with Austin Eckler because he's looked so good. But he has seen a pretty significant touch total so far this season. So could be just wearing him down right off the bat.
Yeah, I agree. The next one was something that happened today, and I have Dak Prescott in a few leagues, and people were immediately trying to pounce on that. So he's listed as questionable for the Vikings, and that is a Sunday night matchup with his sore calf that he injured at the end of the game before the bye. With the fact that he's still a little banged up going in, even after the bye, is concerning. Jerry Jones says things are looking great, and Mike McCarthy's like, this is about more than just one game. So kind of sounds like they're not in agreement. Weird. Jerry Jones doesn't agree with someone. He's optimistic. But I think if Dak does not play, you can't start Cooper Rush, and your backup plan is going to have to be either Daniel Jones or Patrick Mahomes. Good luck getting your hands on Patty Mahomes. Daniel Jones, though, this is a good matchup for him, so maybe he actually might be on the waiver for some guys, some leagues. So that's something that I'd be looking into. But things are that would be a serious downgrade for every Cowboy outside of Tony Pollard and Zeke.
Yeah, absolutely. And against that Vikings defense, you might even have to kind of temper your expectations a bit, for those running backs because they should be able to get away with stacking the box. So maybe Mark McCarthy will get creative and use them in new and unique ways, but I won't hold my breath on that one. So
yeah, there's no way Mike McCarthy's that creative.
Right.
Jerry Jeudy still has not been activated from injured reserve, and he was resting on Friday. Looks like he might be another week from starting. Saquon Barkley still sidelined, but Kadarius Toney did return to practice, so that was good news. Nick Chubb was a full participant, so he's looking like he's going to be a full go, as was Baker Mayfield. Full participant, not listed on the injury report. Deshaun Jackson and the Rams have mutually agreed to seek a trade partner, so good for him. He's 34 years old. Maybe they'll get a conditional pick for him.
Yeah, I thought that was strange, but I guess he thought he was going to get more playing time at his age with his injury history. But yeah, I think he was just brought in as a veteran presence in that locker room for a lot of their young receivers. Van Jefferson and Nico Collins show him the tricks of the trade since they're both kind of burners like he is, or used to be, rather. But other than that, I don't think he was really – maybe they promised him a significant time, but he hasn't seen it, and that's what he wants. So who could use him, though?
Yeah, purple. Maybe the Packers right now. So no, they could have used him last night.
Right.
But A couple more guys are going to be out with hamstrings. Julio Jones and Eric Ebron both out this week with hamstrings. I mean, it's kind of just goes with Julio Jones at this point in his career,
really
unfortunately.
does.
It's sad. It is very sad, but that's it. And then Tyrod Taylor's about one more week away from coming back. So Davis Mills, you'll get the Davis Mills show one more week. And that about wraps up the news outside of Miles Sanders getting placed on injury reserve, which everyone should already know about that. And then Brian Flores gave us some coach speak about Tua, which nobody cares. All right, yeah. I think we're ready to review our previous week's heroes and villains. Did you already look up where your guys landed last week?
Oh, no, I didn't. I was looking at that Rams Texans matchup, and I was thinking that David Mills might explode.
Okay, Aaron, while you're
Jones
looking,
might hit him that hard. Scary.
Right. If Aaron Donald, yep. If speaking of Donald, you said Aaron Jones. I don't expect Aaron Jones.
Yep, sorry. Aaron Donald.
He'll probably take the weekend off after last night's game. So I'll talk about my guys while you're ramping yours up. I thought Sam Darnold playing against the New York Giants was a lock. Turns out that he is absolutely 100% broken without Christian McCaffrey. He finished 28th, so that was a bust on my part. However, my villain was actually better than my hero because he finished 19th, but still a villain. Geno Smith versus New Orleans. That was a fun, terrible, ugly game. Chuba Hubbard versus the Giants. I thought, man, what a plus matchup. And it didn't pan out.
Normally it is.
Yeah, but it didn't. Chuba Hubbard, 29th last week. Barely an RB3, so not good there. He's just it's kind of led me to the belief that Chuba Hubbard he's just a guy. There's nothing really special about him. He's a good football player. Don't get me wrong. I couldn't do what he does. I'm not saying that he's not special in that sense. I'm saying he's not special in the sense of like for fantasy football or anything like that. He's just not going to be that guy. He's not going to be a Tony Pollard where he's the backup to him.
Yeah, we definitely thought he would be at least like Mike Davis, right? He was going to if you had him as the handcuff and McCaffrey went down, you would see him at least do 75% of the work that CMC could do because he's young, he's fresh out of college. He was relatively good, at least his junior year in college or his
junior year
in college.
Junior year is a really big deal.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to come out and he stayed for his last year.
Which kind of hurt his draft stock, but you would have thought he would have been able to do at least a decent Mike Davis impression, but he hasn't even lived up to that.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate. My villain, DeAndre Swift, ended up being the number 2 running back on the week, so that was a huge bust. Turns out that one play alone, where he caught like a 78-yard touchdown or whatever it was, that'll do it. Also blew it on Calvin Ridley versus the Dolphins. He was not a hero. He was 29th. Calvin Ridley.
I couldn't believe that, especially against that banged up secondary and how bad. Oh man. That was
broken. My boy Kyle Pitts, though, cruised in. Devonta Smith versus the Raiders. Nailed that. 33rd. Zach Ertz nailed it. He was 6th overall last week against the Texans on tight end day. All right. And then I chose Fursker. Really, you could have picked any Titans tight end, but Fursker versus the Chiefs, 37th. He was not needed with A.J. Brown having a fantastic game. So that was where I stood.
Oh, man. No, I'm just looking up where these guys finished. And just Moali Cox just figures out how to get 11.5 points and end up in the top 10. Whatever, dude. I'm over it. Tight ends. Ridiculous. Unbelievable position. Golly.
You got to love it, bud. You got to love it.
I don't.
You ready? So I went 4-4 on the week because my tight end saved me. That was the only thing. Without that, I would have been miserable.
Yeah.
So I'm still 2 games under 500, but I expect to get there soon, bud. I'm thinking probably – this is week 8 now. I'll probably get there by week 12, up to 500.
I'm 3-5 this week. Yeah. So Mac Jones finished 9th.
Nailed it.
That's a hit. Burrow finished number 2 overall for QB, so that's a miss.
Nailed it.
Cordell Patterson 20th, so that's a miss. Lenny finished 11th. I should have flipped-flopped in them. And Debo was 7. Terry McLaurin, of course, I say he's going to be a villain. He ends up in the top 5. So, Yep. Dallas Goedert, 8th overall. And the Colts tight ends, Mo Alley Cox was 9th. So, 3-5 this week.
That's painful.
Mm-hmm.
We've all been there.
Hopefully you listened to me on pretty much everything and just, had a bunch of heroes. So
there you go.
It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's heroes, villains, and sidekicks.
All right. First is first. I got to talk about the worst NFL quarterback who still gets to keep his job. No, not Jared Goff. So
Ben Roethlisberger?
Probably second. No, Jalen Hurts is a terrible NFL quarterback.
Oh,
Terrible.
You mean like in terms of like winning football games, but like fills out the stat sheet. Got you. Yeah. I would still say Ben's worse, but because he can't even move.
Jalen Hurts is he's just bad. The good news is that he's going against the Detroit Lions. So he's not a good NFL quarterback, but the Detroit Lions are terrible. And he's actually the number 3 running back on the season overall in fantasy football. I mean, that's bye week. Yeah, quarterback. But I mean, with bye weeks and everything else, the Detroit Lions, I know they want to win bad, but they're allowing over 20 points to quarterbacks in fantasy. They're the 6th worst team against opposing quarterbacks in fantasy right now. So you got to give it. You got to give it to Jalen Hurts, and they haven't allowed any rushing quarterbacks or any rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks yet. But I don't think that's going to be a problem this week. They're just not good. So it's kind of an easy slam dunk for me. Jalen Hurts. Eric, who's your quarterback?
I'm going with Danny Dimes this week.
I like that.
Yeah, they're playing Kansas City. Kansas City is they're just god awful against quarterbacks. They give up the 2nd most fantasy points on a weekly basis to opposing quarterbacks. They have just looked bad on both sides of the ball. They can't score. They can't seem to get anything going on defense. They can't get a turnover. It's been ugly up and down the board for the Kansas City Chiefs this season. And I don't think anything's going to change in terms of how well they can play against a rushing quarterback. And I think Danny will scamper around like on the field like he normally does, and he'll do enough through the air to make it worthwhile. He'll probably get you between 17 and 22 or 23 points. So, which should be a good enough showing to keep him in the top 12 or so.
Okay, I agree with that. It's it'll be a decent little game for him. Should be a decent little game for him.
You think the Chiefs make the playoffs this year?
I was thinking about that, and so this is kind of like a sidebar here, but there are 7 teams from each conference that make it. So you got the Bills who will win their division. The Raiders and the Chargers will probably make it from the West right now if they keep playing like they're going to go. Mm-hmm. The Ravens the Ravens and the Bengals are probably going to go. They could be that 7th team or that 8th team that's on the outside looking in unless they start getting their act together. I think the Chargers are still a year away probably, but
they're still frisky though. They're tough out no matter what.
They really are. And the division isn't out of reach yet. They're probably going to win this game against the Giants, but that schedule they got coming up, it's tough. It's not going to be a cakewalk for them. I mean, you talk about the Giants, but then they got the Packers, Raiders, Cowboys.
Yep.
They get a little bye with the Broncos, but then back to the Raiders, Chargers, Steelers, okay, Bengals, and then the Broncos again. It's not going to be easy.
It's a tough slate. They're going to have a tough time, especially if they're playing like they keep playing like they're playing now. It seems like teams have adjusted to what the Chiefs want to do on a weekly basis. They don't run the ball effectively. They don't even attempt to run the ball effectively anymore. And then you play 2 high safeties and you keep everything in front of you and you try to rush, 4, maybe bring one guy on a blitz every now and again and just make Pat Mahomes try to chip away at you and put these long drives together, and they're just not really built for that. They're built for those huge explosive plays and getting off the field quickly, and they just haven't been able to do it. It's ugly.
Yeah, it's hasn't been good at all. So I decided to go with we'll run into the running backs now. James Robinson. I picked him going to go against Seattle, who we don't have to tell you how bad Seattle's been. And it's not going to get any better this week. Even though they're playing the Jags, I think the Jags could actually win this game and win 2 in a row. I know it sounds crazy, but Seattle's playing bad.
Talk.
Geno's not been great, but it's rough. They've allowed 5 rushing touchdowns, which has actually been pretty good. It's not as bad as the Jets, who've allowed 10. But the big thing is they've been getting killed in the passing game by receivers. So for me, that just it screams RB1 week all over it. I mean, James Robinson could walk away from this week as the number 1 running back the entire week. So you got to fire him up. No questions asked for me. I'm all about it. Who you got, Easy?
I got Joe Mixon this week. The Bengals are going up against the New York Jets. The Jets are absolutely terrible against running backs. They are the worst team in the league against running backs in terms of fantasy points allowed, averaging just under 28 points a week to opposing running backs. And Joe Mixon has been seeing a ton of volume. He has been banged up here and there, but as far as I know, he is completely healthy. He's not in the injury report this week, and he should be a full go, and he should get plenty of work against this Jets team because knowing the Bengals, they'll probably have a lead because Jamar Chase is a monster, and he's good for 2 big plays a game to put him up, and then they'll try to close it out with Joey Mixon.
I was wondering about that because this should be. I mean, the defense that they're playing against is pretty good, but I still think I almost wrote Jamar Chase as a villain. I was like, I cannot do it, dude.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough call right there. That's for sure.
Can't do it. I mean, the Jets have been surprisingly good against the pass because they've been getting eat up on the run, but what are you going to do? All right. So for my hero wide receiver, I really like Debo this week.
Okay.
I think Debo Samuel, you had him last week. He's not on the injury report, even though it was ugly game last week. Jimmy G has been an ugly quarterback. He's going to start, and he is better passing the ball than Trey Lance. Not ugly. Like, he's very handsome as far as that goes.
Oh, very handsome. Yes. Agreed.
The Bears are terrible. That roster is just not good. And I think that's really what a lot of this boils down to. I don't think Khalil Mack is healthy. So it's going to be a good game for Debo. Have fun, Debo. Enjoy your top wide receiver finish this week. I bid you adieu. Easy E.
I like Diggs this week.
Okay.
So he's been up and down all season. But he has seen 58 targets so far this season. He's averaging just under 10 targets a game, which fantastic numbers. Dawson Knox being out helps. Manny Sanders has eaten into his target share a little bit, but he still sees the lion's share for that team on a weekly basis. But I think he's just going to be really good against the Miami Dolphins. That banged up secondary, we've talked about it for a couple weeks now. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, they're all hurt, and they have been terrible against wide receivers. They're the second worst team in the NFL against wide receivers for fantasy points, giving up almost 29 a game. So I think Diggs will run free this week. I think it'll be another high-end, high 20 or low 20s, mid 20s week for him.
Okay. I believe that. So
are they at Miami? No, they're in Buffalo. Okay. Thought it'd be a little warmer for him, maybe.
I'll bet. Now, there's a guy who actually has a bad matchup for me at tight end, but just the volume has been there. So for me, I decided to go with Mike Gosicki. He's 9 targets the first week Tua was back, 8 targets last week. He had over 115 yards in that Jacksonville game, and then against Atlanta, he had a touchdown with 7 catches and 85 yards. Okay. Mike Gosicki, to me, even though the matchup isn't great, against the Bills, I still feel very confident that he's at least going to get the targets to back up his fantasy finish. And right now, with Tua there, he's a tight end 1 right now. So he's got the talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Tua, Waddle, and Gosicki seem to have the. I mean, Parker's been hurt. Obviously, Will Fuller the fifth. He hasn't been in around very much without his muscle lubricant. So his beaver tranquilizers, whatever he was using last season, he hasn't been around much because he doesn't have it this season. And Gosicki and Waddle are the guys to own in that offense because they just seem to click with Tua pretty well. So he had 4 tutters last week too. He looked real good.
Hey, can't beat that,
right? Just one point I want to reiterate on Stephon Diggs real quick. He is tied for the second most targets in the red zone this season with 12. He's only behind Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, and he's tied with Mike Evans. So another reason to like him this week. But my hero tight end is going to be Tyler Higby this week, playing that terrible Houston team. So I'm hoping he sees a couple of red zone targets. Hopefully. We'll see, though. They are the worst team against tight ends on a weekly basis, tied with the Raiders, giving up about 12 points a week. So he should see a couple of receptions and hopefully a tutter in there, and end up a tight end 1 this week.
All right, I like that. You ready to get on these villains?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So my first villain, even if he was healthy, 100% healthy, which he's gained clearance now and he's expected to start, he wasn't a good fantasy football quarterback anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So Baker Mayfield, he has to be a sit this week. He's going against Pittsburgh. He's only broken the 20-point barrier in his 6 starts so far this season. He's only done it 1 time. Outside of that, his max was 17.5 points. Baker Mayfield has not been a good NFL quarterback or fantasy quarterback this year. And whenever he had his previous season high before he played the Chargers in that crazy game where they were scoring points left and right, his best game was against the Houston Texans. So just cool it there, Bakey. All right. He's a bust this week. I think he's a bust in general, but he'll probably make $35 million next year anyway. So whatever. Have fun with that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I just don't think he's a good quarterback. Sorry, I just don't.
That's fair. You don't have to think he's a good quarterback. You're entitled to your opinion.
And I won't.
And I won't.
I'm not going to do it.
I won't do it. I said I won't.
I'm not going to do it. Who's your villain, bud?
My villain QB this week is Mac Jones against that Los Angeles defense. Not the Rams, the Chargers. The other Los Angeles team.
I picked him up in a league, and I felt like I needed to start him because I feel like he might throw a little bit this week. Yeah, no.
He should throw a little bit back, but the Chargers only give up about 17 points a week to to quarterbacks in fantasy. They're in the top 10 against quarterbacks. I don't like it. I don't love it. The other concerning thing about
you don't want some more
our boy
of it?
Mac Jones. What's that?
I said you don't want some more of it?
No. Nice. No, good reference. He's only averaging about 0.4 points per drop back, which is 28th out of 32 NFL teams. So a little concerning. He doesn't get a ton of volume, and he doesn't get a ton of points per drop back. So that's concerning. And he's playing a defense that does quite well against quarterbacks on a weekly basis. So I would be worried about Mac Jones, especially if you're in a pinch like Josh is this week. If you have Dak and you're worried he's not going to play, or you've got one of those fellows, a Lamar Jackson or a Derek Carr that's on a bye this week, and you're kind of swimming through the waiver wire trying to find somebody to play. Mac Jones might be your only option, but I would be worried.
Yeah, I'm using him in the 2 QB league that I'm in, and I don't feel great about it, and now I feel worse. So thanks, Eric.
Well, it's okay. If it goes anything like last week, he'll be a hero along with my other quarterback. So don't worry about it.
Great. So I feel good about that. So I decided to go against the number 10 running back in all of fantasy for my pick this week. And other than just saying that he's playing New Orleans, who's been very good, that's really my best argument against it. They shut down. Aaron Jones had a decent game against them, rushing the ball. But other than that, I mean, Christian McCaffrey got shut down. The Patriots did okay. The Giants were nothing. The football team was nothing. Seattle didn't do anything. So I'm hoping Leonard Fournette isn't going to have a great game. We'll see, but I think Leonard Fournette is going to end up being in the RB2 range. You're probably expecting him to be RB1, but especially with so many running backs being so terrible. But this week, I think he's going to be an RB2. So that's how I feel about it. I could be wrong, but we'll see. I'm probably right. Probably not.
Probably. Unfortunately, if you didn't take a Derrick Henry, an Alvin Kamara, or a Zeke, or an Aaron Jones this season, running back has been just – it's not as bad as tight end, but, man, it is just a week-to-week roller coaster. You just don't have any idea what's going on. And unfortunately, if you spent high draft capital on somebody like Saquon or CMC, or even, got a David Montgomery in like the second round, early in the second, yeah, I just don't know what to make of running back this year. Look for those workhorses that don't have a lot of injury history. But I'm sure they'll get hurt at some point. So maybe next year. We'll see.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next time. But my villain running back this week is going to be Najee Harris.
Whoa.
Yep. Going up against that Cleveland defense. Giving up an average of 14 points a week to opposing running backs. Pittsburgh's ugly. They're going to Cleveland to play an early game. I know that's not a huge difference for them, and I know Baker's hurt, but man, this is the first game that they've had Nick Chubb back, and I feel like they're just going to pound the rock with him because they know they can't really throw it other than to Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think Kareem Hunt is still hurt, but they've got Ernest Johnson waiting in the wings if they need to spell Nick Chubb. But I think he's just going to run like a monster against that team. And I think they're going to limit Pittsburgh's opportunities. And boy, Myles Garrett might have another 4.5 sack game against that statue that is Ben Roethlisberger, unless he's dumping it off real quick.
Oh, that's super sad. Because I know some people are having to pivot to him this week, and it's not good. You would hope that he'd have a decent matchup, but even against Cleveland, it's not good. And this is not what you want this week. So
no,
we'll see what happens. I still think Najee might get some work in a PPR game with some dump offs, but it might not be enough to actually make him fantasy relevant this week. I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, he could. I just worry. They're pretty good against the screen. They're pretty good against running backs in general. I feel like if Ben goes to that well too much, somebody's going to blow it up and either, knock the ball loose on Najee or maybe, take it to the house, get a pick six or something like that. So, because he just can't move.
Yeah, it's really bad, really, really bad. And it'd be nice if he had a little bit of mobility. Brady can climb the pocket. Ben can't do anything. It makes me very sad.
They keep playing him out of the shotgun, man. It's hard to watch. It's just really hard to watch.
Because he needs that time, dude. Mike Evans. That is I decided to stack it, and I'm going with Mike Evans. Now, I know what you're thinking. Antonio Brown's not playing. Gronk isn't going to be fully healthy. This makes sense to actually start Mike Evans. However, normally he's shadowed by Marcus Lattimore in these matchups, and he happens to be a very good corner. So I believe that that's going to happen again this week. This is almost kind of like the caveat with Leonard Fournette, just because I don't want to rule out the Bucs because they're just so good. But I think that Mike Evans is going to have a really bad week. So I feel comfortable. I mean, you're probably going to have to play him anyway because there's not a lot of great options out there with bye weeks and injuries. But I feel I feel pretty confident in saying that he is not going to be a top 24 wide receiver.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's tough with those Bucs receivers. I mean, it helps that Gronk and Antonio Brown are out because it limits the amount of guys that are running or out on the field and running routes on every play. But Godwin looked really good last week, and Evans really thrives on that red zone work. And when he doesn't get that, if Lenny's taking that or Rojo's getting that, then it kind of really deflates his value.
Oh, Tom Brady deflate. I got you. No.
It's not where I was going with it, but we'll take it.
Hey, I got you.
Yeah. But my villain wide receiver this week is going to be Amari Cooper.
Oh,
unfortunately, with that Dak news, you do have to worry about.
He's going to play.
Are we sure he's going to play? We're 100% sure he's going to play?
I'm speaking it into existence. He's going to play.
Well, I'm going to be realistic. You be optimistic. I'll be realistic. And I would worry. It's very interesting because this wasn't a problem, right? When it happened, it's like, oh, I got the bye week. It's not going to be a problem. We're going to come back and I'm going to be just fine after the bye week. And now all of a sudden it's a concern, which is very concerning for this Cowboys offense and very concerning for Dak Prescott owners. So Amari usually gets his. But he hasn't seen a lot of red zone targets this year. He's only got 8 targets inside of the 20 and only 1 touchdown, which is kind of concerning. And they are going against the Minnesota Vikings this week, who are pretty good against wide receivers. Not great, but pretty good.
He has been pivoting. Dak has been pivoting to the tight ends in the red zone lately.
He really has. Dalton Schultz has been his favorite red zone target, it seems like. And he has seen, I think we talked about it last week, Dalton Schultz has been the most targeted guy in that offense in the past couple of weeks. So
it's just insane.
It is kind of nuts. Yeah. Minnesota only gives up around 20 points a week to wide receivers, to opposing wide receivers. So
and Dalton Schultz has become what we thought Blake Jarwin could be.
Yeah. No, the hype last year was around Blake Jarwin. He got hurt. Dalton Schultz came in, did a pretty reasonable job as a fill-in tight end, and then Dak got hurt, so the offense completely fell apart. But then this year he's been that safety blanket and that big-bodied red zone target that Dak's been looking for. So,
and it's crazy. I believe I think he's at like a top. Yeah, he's number 5 right now in the year.
Yeah,
Dalton Schultz.
I believe it.
And that's with the bye week.
Oh, that's with
yeah.
Dang. So. Okay, well, it is tight end, but
he's ahead of Darren Waller. I mean,
which is surprising considering the receiving core that the Raiders have. So,
I mean, the list of guys above him: Mike Gosicki, because he had that big game recently. T.J. Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, and Travis Kelce. I mean, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz is that dude.
He has gotten 37 targets on the year. He's averaging 6 a game. He is behind Kelce, Hawkinson, Waller, Gosicki, Andrews, Fant, Pitts, and that's it in targets. So, I mean, and that's the short list of guys you want on your team for a tight end. So he's making a case to be one of those guys.
I can't believe it.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is.
6 targets a game. Goodness.
Not too shabby.
No, not at all.
All right. I think all we got now left is our villain tight ends, right?
I think that's it. Let's hear it.
Okay. So I decided to go with Jonnu Smith against the Los Angeles Chargers. I think it's going to be a Hunter Henry day. Jonnu Smith wasn't really going to be trustworthy anyway, but I do feel like revenge game, maybe Hunter Henry going back. And the thing that Bill Belichick, he seems to really have it in for a couple of teams in the NFL. The Jets, absolutely. The Jets, he hates the Jets. I don't know what that's about. I don't exactly know what that's about. He hates them, though.
Did you hear about what Richard Seymour said? Because they retired his number for the Jets game, or during the Jets game for the Hall.
Yeah, they treated it like homecoming.
Yeah, Yeah, he's like, yeah, let's do it against the Jets because it'll be like homecoming because we're gonna stomp them. I was like, whoa, dude, really? But it was true.
And it's funny because Bill was like throwing it with the backup quarterback in the fourth quarter, and he did that to another team last year when he played them, and that was the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to carry over, but I'm hoping it is. But I still don't think it's going to be anything to do with Jonnu Smith. He hasn't really fleshed out to be anything yet. We thought that it might be a safety blanket for Mac Jones, but so far it hasn't really happened. It's been Hunter Henry. So I think it's going to continue to be Hunter Henry. He's a number 10 tight end on the year, and he's really getting better and better and forming a nice rapport with Mac Jones every single week. So sneaky good Hunter Henry's been. Sneaky good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And my villain tight end this week is Ricky Seals-Jones.
Oh,
he's been good the last couple of weeks. I've played him the last 2 weeks in one of our leagues, and he's been good for me. He's had double-digit points both weeks. But I think this is the week that comes to an end. Playing the Broncos, they give up an average of 5 points a week to tight ends. I don't think Tyler's going to have a good week against that defense. And I think Ricky Seals-Jones is going to pay the price. So he has seen a decent number of targets each week, averaging about five a game. But I don't think it's going to translate to anything for him this week. They just play too tough.
Poor Heineken.
Heineken. Yeah. What are you going to do? Can't win them all, bud. Can't win them all.
You can't. You got any parting shots? Anything you want to talk about? Favorite Halloween candy?
My favorite Halloween candy? I will tell you that black licorice and candy corn they're both trash. I'll tell you that right off the top.
Well, I like candy corn. I don't like black licorice, but
if I'm getting, I would take candy corn over black licorice. Man, favorite candy bar?
Well, Halloween candy.
Yeah, Halloween candy. I love crackle bars, but you can only really get them in the assorted bags with like a Hershey's bar and the Mr. Good bars. And I despise Mr. Good bars. But so my wife likes them, so it works out. She eats those, and I eat the crackle bars.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because there's a candy that you always get around Halloween. There's a few of them because you don't really think about them any other time. I like Whoppers.
Ooh, not a fan.
I know it's like you love them or hate them, but I like them, but I never think like, hey, I could really go for a Whopper right now. It's really only around Halloween. So I don't know. My favorite would probably be anything you slap Reese's peanut butter in.
Oh, it's so good. I wanted to take 5 today, and the gas station didn't have any, and I was real upset.
Gas stations are running out of stuff everywhere, bud. Yeah, that's a separate story. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, and then my least favorite Halloween candy would probably be. Oh, I don't know. I like candy. I do. I don't really like sour candy as much, so probably not the sour stuff. Lemon heads, you can keep lemon heads.
Yeah, they're not great. I don't like milk duds. Not a fan of those. Yeah, I'm not a milk dud guy. I can take it or leave it. I also despise any of the candy that you get out of the assorted bag that has Starburst in it. Because some of the bags, they have like fruit candy and chocolate candy in it, and the fruit flavor like bleeds over into the chocolate. I'm out on that. That whole bag, put it in the trash. I don't want it. Nope. Get it out of here.
If you taste one of that when you're rifling through your children's Halloween candy, you'll throw it away. You'll spit it out and throw it away.
If I taste one piece of chocolate that tastes like a Starburst, that chocolate's it's out of here. Get them out of here. I'll keep the Starburst because the chocolate doesn't like bleed over to those. But man, I can't do that fruity chocolate. It's weird.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got Eric's take on that.
Reese's are great though. Reese's peanut butter cup. Oh my goodness.
They are. They're
probably
a
pound of those in one shot. He did not do that though.
Oh, you look good. All right. So we will
trying to stay that way.
Yeah. That's not the right thing.
That was the wrong one.
There we go. Thanks for tuning in to the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Josh. That was Eric. You can find us on Twitter at GunsOfEld19 for Eric. And I'm at FFJoshHughes on Twitter. You can hit up the show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at EmptyWagonFF. And if you want to bother Brad, and he won't be in house for the next few weeks, it's going to be at Tack Jones. Please shoot us your questions. Tell your friends. Share this podcast. We love you. We thank you. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Good luck in week 8. I can't believe the season's almost half over already. Bye.